RADio568, and we ran into all kinds of problems. But we're broadcasting now. And so I welcome Professor Wandt, Adam, to the studio. And so, how do you like our setup?
I am impressed. I think any time that we are able to get together and collaborate and broadcast online, it's always a success. And nothing ever is supposed to work smoothly with technology. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, it certainly didn't work this time. Now, I was online with my students from this morning, and they were broadcasting their podcast, and then we had little interviews afterwards, and it was going like clockwork. It was like a hot knife through butter, and just now we tried to start it, and everything was going bad. But I think we're broadcasting now, and this will be podcast later if no one is listening. And I'm looking to see. It doesn't look like anyone's listening to us, but we're going to go ahead anyway. So your initials and my initials are exactly the same.
They are. They are.
You ever notice that? So my S I have ASW, Alan Saul Winson, and you're
Scott. Adam Scott. Yes.
Adam Scott
And
Wandt.
and the irony is that I never used my middle name growing up.
No.
And I used to act when I was younger.
Oh.
And the credits would always be under Adam Want. And when I got into academia and I started doing a lot of online work, I was sick of every search for Adam Want always coming up to the IMDb database and other types of international movie database.
No.
So
Why was that?
because I was in movies, and I was in one of the greatest movies of all times. So if you searched Adam Want, it always went to that movie. So I started using the name Adam Scott Want solely for SEO reasons and to change the way people would search for me on Google. And it actually worked. Over time, the Adam Scott Want pushed its way up so well that now even if you search Adam Want comes up, and the IMDb and all the movie references have been pushed to the bottom.
So, but wait. So you were in acting.
I used to act. Yeah, I was a child actor. I didn't really do much. I was in the credits of and a casted role in, like I said, the greatest movie ever made. But then I did some commercials. I did some extra work. And when I was pretty young. We're talking about like the 9, 10, 11 age range.
So you were a pretty child.
No, I was never pretty. I was cute when I was really young, but somehow that faded. It's I think it was that we had family contacts and friends that did acting and managing, and they managed agents and closer.
No, you just it's a unidirectoral.
Gotcha.
So there you go. Now
There we
you're
go.
hot. Now you're hot.
So I think that because we had family friends that owned a talent company, that we always got these options and offers to go and do acting, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it a lot as a kid. I was on a TV show that I can never find me, but I was on this old TV show often as an extra called The Equalizer, which would have been like a 90s TV show.
What was it about?
He was like a crime solver. I think he was kind of I only watched a couple episodes as an adult, but it was kind of like a PI type show.
And who started it?
I have absolutely no idea. I just know I was in it a couple of times.
Well,
And
IMDb it. It should.
it
You
would
should get it.
it would, but my name wasn't in the credits of that because I was an extra. It wasn't until I was lucky enough to get a casted role in the movie Goodfellas that my name started really popping up all over the place.
Wait, you're in
I
Goodfellas?
said it was the best movie of all time. And I'll take the Goodfellas over Godfather or Scarface any day. But as a young kid, I was a casted role in the movie Goodfellas.
My goodness, Mr.
You would
Want.
never know. I know. It's
Well,
something that
now
I
I'm
don't I
going
don't
to
tell
have to
too
go
many people.
scan Goodfellas, and
If I'll tell you where I was. The funny part is when they shot it, it took the entire day to shoot, and I had some lines. I had a script. I had to memorize it. I actually had a really nice scripted part. And when I went to the premiere, I got invited to the real premiere, the New York premiere. I didn't see myself in the movie, and I was really upset. And what wound up happening was the movie was so long that they cut out my entire spoken part, and I just appeared as a main I mean, it's just me on the screen, but you get me for about 3 seconds, maybe four. And during the premiere, I didn't even see myself. But I'm in the movie, and they can never cut my part out because it's one of the more important parts.
No, okay, all right. So you're up there for 3 or 4 seconds. So we got to know where in the movie it is,
I
so I can
am.
pause it.
Yeah, no, it's easy. I am the kid who found the dead bodies in the pink Cadillac. The kid who's in front, the main kid who's on screen.
Okay.
And there was a whole fight scene before that, and if you look in the background, you could see kids fighting in the background, and it
Mhm.
started with a whole fight scene. And if you look really closely, you'll see a girl in a pink jacket, and that's actually my sister.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my first casted role, and I got to join SAG, the Screen Actors Guild.
Wow.
And I really enjoyed doing it.
Right.
I was almost in a Reading Rainbow with LeVar Burton.
Wow.
Yeah, by almost, I mean we were casted, we were shooting it. It
Reading
was
Rainbow, the television show.
television show.
Right.
Yeah, my sister and I was shooting the episode, and in the episode we were chosen, and we got into a fight, and they asked us to leave.
Wow. Reading Rainbow, I mean, that was like a lot of people's childhood.
It was, and due to a little argument with my sister, I was never on it, but I would have been on it.
Do you remember what you were arguing about?
I actually remember very little of it.
Yeah.
I don't remember being with LeVar Burton. I remember interviewing for something called Reading Rainbow. I didn't really paste it all together until my adulthood, and then went back and spoke with my mother about it. I do remember being at an interview and asking to leave because I got into a fight with my sister who was there. But I didn't paste it all together as an adult, and now as an adult that I know the story, I think it's hysterical.
It is. And your sister's older or younger?
Younger
All
sister.
right, there's so many questions that I'm just throwing away my sheet here. But Lamar Burton, I mean, Star Trek,
Yeah.
and he had done Star Trek by that time because that's why he got this other show, right? Because of the Star Trek
Yeah,
thing.
I think
So
so.
did you get to talk to him at
I
all?
don't
Or?
remember. I actually have no
Wow.
memory of it whatsoever.
You just was so angry with your sister. You just,
I went on a lot of interviews. Reading Rainbow was just one of many different things that we were doing. I didn't know at the time that if I kept my mouth shut and didn't fight with my sister, it actually would have been a wonderful opportunity.
yeah.
And excuse me, I'm really upset about that today. But ultimately, I have very little memory of that event. And it wasn't until I was speaking with my mother as an adult that it came up, and I really realized what a colossal failure it was for me.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, we're in the middle of broadcast, but that's okay. Come on in, Sandy. Sandy has a question for us. Yeah, we have a problem in that there's a
They're right there
bag
up there.
outside one of the offices. I'd call security
Yeah.
and have them check the bag and make sure there's no DNT,
So I know it's
bombs in it. It's
Yeah.
Lorraine's, I
They
know.
should put it in there.
Yeah,
She
but
probably
I
forgot it.
want to make sure she's not. I hope she's.
Yeah, I would say yeah to make sure because she was coughing earlier. I hope she's all right.
I'm sure she is, and if
Yeah,
not, we'll know soon.
we'll know soon, and we'll
Yeah.
have a whole different broadcast going on.
We will.
We'll have a news broadcast.
Did you
Well,
know I was in EMS for 10 years?
you were in the
You see, all
all
these
right,
things
all
you
right, all
had
right, all right,
no
all right.
idea.
Now you realize this is going to be podcast, and then we're going to let everyone know in the tech field here, find out who this man really
I
is,
know
because eventually we have to get to what you've been doing here. But
it's
all right,
it's
All right, wait. Your sister's doing what now?
now my sister. Oh, my sister's great. My sister is an artist.
Yeah.
She's in Austin, Texas. Linda Heather Want, and she has a website. I think it's if you Google Linda Heather Want, you can see her work. She does incredible paintings. And she's doing pretty well down there. She has shows. They do a lot of like coffee house shows and art exhibit shows. But I have had the pleasure of watching my sister's career really flourish from when she really started with her art to having shows and gallery stuff on a regular basis. And in Austin they have a lot of like small stuff, and it's really nice that she could be included in so many things. I'm so proud of her.
And she's older or younger?
Younger than me. She's 2 years younger than me.
Right.
One of the things that no one would know, and I hope I'm not violating my sister's trust here by saying this, is that when my sister was younger, she actually was a very talented sketch artist. And at a very young age, I don't want to say memorized, but very closely was able to memorize or come close to Gray's Anatomy, the book. And she studied drawing anatomy at a very young age, and she was able to replicate it without having the book in front of her. And a lot of her art today is very, I don't even know if she realizes this, but a lot of her art today is very depictive of a lot of the Gray's Anatomy work she did as a kid. And that's pretty cool.
And so you see a style in Gray's Anatomy,
Her,
and it kind of percolated into her style.
I think that a lot of her work is, you see anatomy.
Hmm.
One of her you see into the person, or you see the anatomy of a person distorted or changed. And most artists drawing somebody would draw their flesh and skin and focus on that. And my sister does, many times. She did an incredible, I don't want to call it a duplicate work, but a tribute to Salvatore Dali. I think I pronounced that right.
Dolly,
That
right?
Yeah, that is absolutely amazing, and that's more traditional. But some of the work that she's done that shows off human anatomy or distorts human anatomy is amazing. And I get, you can find it online at Linda Heather Want.
Well, if we have her on Play Talk, maybe we can show, because we're going to be showing some of your art
Yeah,
later, some of your photographic art.
the
It sounds like you're very talented. So I'm going to go back one step further. What do your parents do? Are they artists?
both of my parents, I would say yes, they are artists. My father is absolutely an artist. He's a professional photographer.
Oh,
We're going to be looking at some of my photography, but what you might not know is I'm a third generation photographer. My grandfather, my father, were my grandfather's passed away, but very talented photographers. My mother, while she was very artsy and crafty. My mother was a mother. I was one of those fortunate people growing up that had a mother who didn't have to work and was there, and was part of our family.
hmm.
And she did a lot of arts and crafts from home. She did a lot of what today would be Etsy. My mother was doing in the 80s.
Well, without the
Without the,
internet.
the sale of the internet. Yeah. So my mother always did incredible crafts. She's since moved to Atlanta. And actually, I was at her apartment recently, or her house, and she has a whole new art set up, and she's doing crafts again, and she's doing a lot of artistic things, and it's really nice for her. She's doing quilting too, big time.
Wow. I was up in East Nassau, New York, and there was a quilting kind of thing. It was just amazing what they can do. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. So your grandfather and your father made a living in photography.
Without a doubt, and education. My grandfather was also an educator. Um, my grandfather's story is just incredible, and it should be told in writing somewhere one day. But my grandfather, coming out of World War II,
Hmm.
was a photographer on the bombers.
Hmm.
And that's where he learned photography. And then he came back and he became a New York City school teacher. And he taught at one of the schools, either I forgot if it was Bronx or Harlem, and he taught there for his entire career. But he did wedding photography on the side. And by the time I was born, my grandfather was retiring as a New York City school teacher, and he was one of the founding wedding photography entrepreneurs on Long Island. He had a giant operation going for him, and he trained some of the top wedding photographers in the country right now. But he had this giant business on Long Island. It was called Lavender Bridal Studio. And when he passed away, my father took it over and made his living that way until he got later on in life, around now, where he's into his, retirement type phase. But yeah, I almost could have been a photographer
Yeah.
professionally.
Wow. It sounds like we went a lot of different directions. And then you said you went to you were an EMS.
Yeah, but only because somebody might need help here.
Yeah.
Um, I spent a total of 10 years in emergency medical services as an advanced life support critical care technician. I volunteered on Long Island, where I was a deputy chief for 2 years and a captain of New York State's it's New York State's largest all volunteer ambulance association or agency. And that was a major part of my life for a long time. I was in EMS for 8 years, for 10, but 8 heavily involved. And it was a major point of my life, a major time of my life.
This is amazing. I'm always amazed. I keep finding out different things that you do and what you're involved with, and you just seem to be so all over the place. And now you were how long in an EMS and a very high level in the
Yeah.
EMS field?
Well, um, I started the day I left high school, so I I applied right out of high school,
That sounds better.
and I became an EMT very quickly, and then I got advanced life support, what's called critical care training. So, I mean, I was like 19 years old, and we were able to do advanced skills and administer drugs. And the agency that I was involved in, I got into a little bit of trouble one day, and I didn't really agree with the way things were being ran down there.
And
And
where was this again?
this was in Huntington, in Huntington, Long Island.
Right.
And I wrote an article in our newsletter basically saying, I'm sick of being part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution. And I became an EMS captain, and loved it. And then I ran for deputy chief, and I was a deputy chief for 2 years. Um, Left EMS when I went to law school for the most part. Law school and a couple other just things just took me away from EMS. I've always thought about returning into EMS, especially now that I'm established here in the city. Central Park has a wonderful volunteer ambulance corps, but John Jay keeps me so busy, and my work down here keeps me too busy that it would hurt too much to take away from my time to this college. My all the time I have needs to go towards John Jay right now.
Yes, John Jay needs your talents. Before we get to the many hats you wear here at John Jay, I wanted to ask about your experience in at Hofstra, where you went to law school.
Yeah.
And I picked that up from Facebook, and I noticed that the Hofstra Facebook statements from the Maurice A. Dean School of Law,
Mhm.
where you went.
It was not called that back then. That name was given recently. It used to be the Hofstra University School of Law, but it was renamed probably 2-3 years ago.
Okay, so I don't even want to get to who Maurice A. Dean is. So that's another conversation. But it says here that the Hofstra University prepares passionate students to make an impact in their communities and beyond. And you were just talking about your passionate kind of connection here with John Jay. I
Yeah.
wonder if there's something about Hofstra that kind of got you, was there some kind of linking between your feelings about community service and all that Hofstra kind of like?
The irony is that Hofstra wasn't my first choice. It was my only choice. Being that I was an EMS chief at the time, I wasn't leaving Huntington. I wasn't leaving Long Island. Hofstra was and is the best law school on Long Island. And I went to Hofstra so that I wouldn't have to leave my EMS agency. It turns out, in reflection, it was the smartest decision I ever made. I loved my time at Hofstra. I loved the people I met at Hofstra. It has an absolute beautiful campus. The vision statement that you kind of just read from Hofstra about public service, I think, was kind of adopted after I left. But one thing is for sure is that I love and appreciate the fact that I'm a Hofstra University School of Law alumni. I think that the exposure to the professors that I got and the work that I did there was wonderful. I can't talk more highly about it. And it really helped develop me to be the person that I am today.
And you went to law for what reason?
You would never guess. I did not want to be a lawyer.
For the money?
No, not in any way. I went into law for a singular reason, and that was to run for office. It was the single only reason I went to law school. And it was the reason I went and got a Master of Public Administration before that. And ultimately, that was that. I went to law school never to practice law in a day in my life. Never planned on it. But I also didn't know I was going to be a professor. So I went for one reason, and my life developed a little bit differently.
Right. Okay. The administration, the MA administration, I didn't know about that either.
Yeah, yeah.
So, well, I'm not even going to ask about that because
Well, it's important actually.
Okay,
I
right.
have 2 degrees from John Jay, and part of my love for John Jay is I'm a double alumni. I have an undergraduate in government and a master of public administration.
from
And
John Jay.
from John Jay, yeah.
Right.
And what is also true is John Jay is the only college I've ever applied to, undergraduate and graduate. I always targeted where I wanted to go and then went there. John Jay was the only undergraduate institution I applied to, coming from a very well prepared high school with really high SAT scores, coming from Long Island. I could have, not that I could have gone anywhere I wanted to because I couldn't have, but I knew I wanted to be at John Jay. And then when I found out about our Master of Public Administration program, and I realized how it could help me with my work in EMS and perhaps prepare me for work in politics, I went into the MPA program and made sure that I got those skills that were necessary for government or public area. And I did that all before I went to law school.
So this is all aiming towards getting into politics.
100% across the board.
And so you got the masters, you got your LD, and then did you go into politics?
Well, no, never. While I was in law school getting my JD, lots of things changed, lots of priorities changed for people, both in life and in realistic nature. And a lot of things were going on at once in my life, both in my personal life and professional life. And between everything that happened, I ended up here. And it was a very unexpected twist. And I never wanted it. I never applied, never said, let me go become an adjunct or a professor. The school reached out to me, and the program reached out to me because of some of my talents while I was a law student. And they said, why don't you come here and teach some of your tech stuff as an adjunct? And I never thought of teaching before. And if I did, it was when I was old. Professors were old. They weren't 25 years old. And here I was, a 25-year-old. I said professors are old, and I didn't mean to, that's how you feel.
Perfectly all right.
But that's how you feel when you're in your lower 20s.
I know.
So they hired me as an adjunct, and it was while I was in law school, and I had a lot going on, and I really re-examined my life. And I decided that I wanted to do nothing in this world more than die in my office at John Jay College 50, 60 years from then.
Right.
And I'm serious. I decided that John Jay College was an institution worth devoting my life to. I utterly enjoyed all aspects of teaching. I enjoyed the freedom of research and academic freedom. And frankly, I enjoyed the lifestyle. There is no lifestyle in this world like being a professor. We have the freedom to do what we want to do and research what we want to research. And that's incredible.
It is. And I mean, thus this radio station, the fact that I can get the funds to do it and the students to man it, and then I can have fun and talk to the people I want to talk to and have interesting conversations. Yeah, it's a good life.
It is. If I want to launch a satellite into orbit, I could do that. And that sounds funny.
Wait, when does this happen?
It's not going to. It's stuff my team and I have conceptualized. We've talked about, and we're not talking about these bigs. We're talking about things called micro satellites, very small But the scary part is sitting around the table with my doctoral students, with my master's students, with adjuncts. I work with a team of people up here that I lead. But literally them saying, "Why don't we put a satellite in orbit?" It's a possibility. It's not only a possibility. If I wanted to do it, we would do it. And we would get funding for it. And it's being a professor allows us to do what our heart wants us to do. And then if we're good at it, we get funding to do it.
Yeah, we're kind of jumping all over the place here. I mean, I would love to talk about your rocketry and where how that could happen, because it'd probably be more than using rubber bands.
We've designed several models. It's a whole conversation in itself. And actually, in my office right now, I have a mock-up of one of our launch vehicles. That we went as far as making mock-ups. But the amount of time and effort we would have to devote into that is just simply not worth it right now.
Wow. But that would put John Jay on the map.
No, it wouldn't. It would be a news story. I mean, let's be serious. Colleges like MIT and a lot of people are doing this right now, so it would just be us following in their steps. It would be a nice news story. It would be a nice thing for the college, but so are many of the other projects that we're working on. And I would rather do something that people have not done before than following, and then repeat the footsteps that have already been taken.
Got it. And maybe if in the future you're moving in that direction, we can have you and maybe your team back here in the studio, and we can talk, or for your radio program,
That would be wonderful.
we can talk
Yeah.
about what's going on. But so you're in law school. You're teaching at the same time, which blows my mind
hmm
because I know people in law school that's pretty much all they can do is just law
And
school.
I was an EMS chief, and I resigned from the police department before then.
So you just had the two hats that you were on.
Yeah, EMS chief, law student,
Right.
and then basically just as I left EMS, I went into teaching.
You went into teaching here.
Yeah.
What were you teaching here when you began?
And I was hired to revamp a graduate course in how technology affects government.
Right. And this was okay. All right. So you'd been through graduate school.
Yeah.
And
I had a master's already.
and you were.
Yep, I was
doctorate.
a second-year law student. I was hired as an instructor. A very common thing to hire doctoral students, but usually PhD side. And I had, I don't say this arrogantly, but I had a unique mixture of skills. And the college came and sucked me right into it.
Exactly. And how long ago was this?
This was in 2005. I am 3 months away from my 10-year anniversary at John Jay as a professor.
Excellent. Over the years, I know you put on a lot of different hats
Yeah.
here, and it seems as though your reach into the university, at least tech-wise, goes very far. But I'm sure there's more things than just the tech area that you're into. You certainly helped me a lot in kind of expanding myself and thinking about this. In fact, just going on the radio, you're one of the inspirations that got me
Thank you.
doing this. I think you were doing some seminar someplace with Michael from York,
Yes.
right? And you were talking about DS 106.
DS 106, absolutely.
Right, DS 106 was where we started.
Yeah.
And that's where I started in doing broadcasting with the students over DS 106. And then I wanted a little more freedom in the scheduling that DS 106. But it was you and Michael. His name is not coming. Yeah. But anyway, so right now, what are some of the things that you're doing here? What is your position now at John Jay?
I mean, so ultimately, my official title is Assistant Professor of Public Policy, Department of Public Management, John Jay College of Criminal Justice.
And what does that mean?
That's my top title. That is my academic appointment. What it means is I have a full academic appointment from John Jay. That it's the appointment level is assistant professor. There are 3 levels of professor. Assistant's the lowest. That I devoted towards public policy. I study issues of public policy. And it basically means that I've got 2 more promotions to go over my life. So that's my primary title.
Right.
But then I also have other titles given to me by the college and the university that take up a majority of my time.
Can you give for instance, of the one that is your priority right now, of the many titles that you have?
I would say the priority is my faculty fellowship. I am the college's faculty fellow for online learning, which is the official title. I delve more into the technology side of it, and how pedagogy and technology kind of mix together, how you could use technology to solve pedagogical problems. But my faculty fellowship for online learning is really important because it allows me to be freed up a little bit to help professors and faculty members like yourself, like many others, who need just a little bit of help to accomplish incredible tasks. And there are lots of resources at the college to do that. But one of my mantras, one of the things I believe very deeply, is that administration and staff are incredibly important and there to support the college and the faculty, but faculty also need faculty inspired faculty to work with, and there needs to be some sort of faculty to faculty inspiration on top of the staff and administrative layers. So I really like the work that I do with you, with scores of other faculty members, and that's probably one of my bigger priorities.
Yeah, well, ditto from this side of the mic. I'm going to be going to a seminar, a colloquium, I'm not sure what they're calling it, at York on Friday,
Mhm.
next Friday, in which we're going to be online faculty are going to talk about what they're doing. And I basically kind of asked for that. I said, we're teaching online at York, and we need. I really desire to hear from other online faculty teachers is what basically what are your problems?
I kind of think of us like Christopher Columbus and Magellan and the people that first started out to navigate the globe and started creating the first maps of the new world. Because even though online education is about 10 to 15 years old at this point, we're really still creating those workflows and those maps of this new world. And one of the most important things that we could do as scholars is share our failures
Right.
and our successes.
Right.
But failures are really important to study because I fail all the time, and I think my students find that funny when I say that. Some of my projects fail, experiments fail, I fail. But when we start sharing our failures, hopefully other people learn from them.
So let me get to the nub of the issue here. What state is online learning at CUNY?
I will have to answer CUNY and John Jay differently
Okay.
because there's miles apart.
Okay.
Sorry. CUNY has a new chancellor
All right.
who is very pro online learning technology outreach. We have a wonderful director of academic technology at CUNY, George Oddie, who has been working with the up until recent university provost to increase hybrid and online offerings in general. But one of the nuances of CUNY is that it really is a bunch of decentralized colleges acting together. I mean, CUNY Central itself, they push initiatives, they have rules and regulations, they support our technology, but it's very hard for them to have a strong hold over CUNY as a whole. The individual member institutions and colleges have a lot of individual freedom. So, many colleges are in different states of development when it comes to online education. But CUNY, as the world's largest urban university,
That's amazing.
it is, has absolutely taken leadership. They have given grants to institutions to develop hybrid programs. They have funded online programs for us here at John Jay College to help us get off the ground. So I think that as an entire university system, I think that each college has talented people that are working on increasing online offerings, but that the colleges themselves are at different levels of development. For example, John Jay is number one. There's no doubt in my mind on that.
Number one in its advancement in online learning.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now we have the School of Professional Studies, which is an online institution, and I'm taking that out of the mix right now because I'm not going to compare a fully online institution to anything else. So let's take out the School of Professional Studies.
So you're talking now about online courses given to students who take both online and they're also in the house.
Now I'm talking about if you look at every single CUNY institution without SPS, without the School of Professional Studies, John Jay is miles ahead when it comes to our online course offerings, but more importantly, our online programs and our online presence and support and structure.
So talk a little bit about what is that presence? Can you give an example
I
of
could do
something
it.
that's working really well?
It's called John Jay Online. President Travis is a leader in CUNY when it comes to online education, and there's no doubt in my mind about that. And we have a program called the Master of Public Administration Online and Inspection and Oversight that's been around for, I don't know, 5 or 6 or 7 years at this point. That was a wonderful online program that I helped create. I didn't lead it, but I was part of the creation. And when we realized the potential of online education, and when that program did a proof of concept and proved how really well it could run, there were some task force, and we wound up creating an entity called John Jay Online. And that's where my faculty fellow is through. It's directed by a Dr. Feng Wang, who is very, very adept at what's needed to do online programs. We have more resources at John Jay than any CUNY college. We have a dedicated unit. They have put online a fully online master's degree this year in security management. So now we have 2 fully online master's degree, one in public administration, inspection, and oversight, the second in security management. We put online a certificate in terrorism studies, and we just launched about 2 weeks ago CUNY's first MOOC, massively open online course, and that's on slavery. It's on the law and literature on slavery, and it's a MOOC that's done by Pulitzer Prize winning professor John Madison at John Jay. So one of our Pulitzer Prize professors put on CUNY's first MOOC, and I worked with John Jay Online and Feng Wang and a team of experts, and we designed this MOOC. And right now, if you go to johnjayonline.com/slavery, you could still join, even though it's in progress.
Terrific. Now you're and I've not looked at that yet. Believe I've heard of it. And I know there was a lot of money that was resources that were put into that.
It's it's a little bit of a misnomer. When you look at the national average of how much a MOOC costs, we're a 10th percentile.
Mhm.
So when you look at what most people spend to create MOOCs, we like 10% ish. But what really most people don't understand is that the resources that went into the MOOC, into creating this massively open online course, what it really was doing was forcing us at John Jay and John Jay Online to raise the bar in online education at this college. So even though our focus was this MOOC, we were creating new workflows. We were learning new ways of delivering online education. We were hiring new talent. And at the same time, we were also building the master's in security management, the certificate in terrorism studies, supporting the online IG program. So even though we were building MOOC, we were raising the bar for all online education at John Jay by the lessons we learned building the MOOC, the workflows we put together to build the MOOC. And as faculty fellow, I work with other faculty members here at the college, and we go out and we train faculty members on how to give better online courses and to improve their online courses. And these are lessons that we've learned through partially the MOOC.
Yeah. The focus, though, seems to me, from my end, because I don't teach graduate level courses, I teach the undergraduate level courses, is the online at the graduate level.
Absolutely.
And there is a good reason for that, because online learning does take a high level of skill on the student side, and of course on the instructor side. But what about online learning at the undergraduate level? I find, from my point of view, I find our students are just not ready for it. Not all of them anyway, or many of them are not ready for it. And at York, we've been trying to get them ready and not doing a good job. They just have a wrong attitude or idea
Yes.
about what online learning is. I think by the time you get to graduate school, you've got the skills you need to take an online course. What about undergraduate? Can those models be used to help the undergraduate instructor and the undergraduate student?
Well, you got to realize we need to divide this into 3 categories: online programs, singular online classes, and hybrid learning. It is possible, but very difficult and resource intensive, to do fully online undergraduate programs. I mean, think about all the core curriculum you would need to put online. Think about all the specialization courses. Think about all the options. But there are colleges around the world that have done so. And maybe that is in John Jay's future. It is a new game altogether. Then you have online courses. And we do have online courses for undergrads. And the struggle there is, at what level do you offer them? How do you prepare them? How do you prepare the instructors?
What subjects
What
you put online?
subjects? Absolutely. Could you put a science lab online, or a physical education course online, or a history course online?
I taught my self-media and society class totally online, and it didn't work.
I am of the opinion that anything could be taught online with the right preparation and resources. And you don't always have the resources to pull off a proper online course. The University of Phoenix, Arizona, it's rumored they spend $250,000, 250,000 for every online course they put on. Not realistic in an institution like this in any way, shape, or form. We can't even spend $25,000, although we do for programs. So when you're talking about, individual courses for undergrads, some courses definitely work better than others. And I'll tell you right now, you said you put it on once, it didn't work.
If I did it again, it would be better.
You know something? Not one course I have taught the first time has ever worked.
This is true. Whether
Especially whether online or in person. And I'll be honest with that. One of the men I respect most in this world is a professor here named Bob Sermier. And he is a brilliant man. And one of the lessons he's taught me about teaching is that it's always okay, and you'll always fail the first 2 times, but get it right by number 3.
Yeah, right. And then get it righter and righter and
Yes.
righter. And
It's
then,
always improvement.
and it always gets better, and you always learn from the students. One thing that I learned from you is that you give the students a project to do, or something to do, and then let them figure out how to do it.
I am a big fan in forcing students to figure out the problems themselves. I think that one of the biggest detriments to our students today are things like email and Google, where a student doesn't have to figure out the problem themselves, but they could quickly email their professor or a friend or a boss and get it figured out. I have seen I've been teaching for 10 years, and look at the difference of technology in 10 years. And I've noticed a decrease in problem solving skills, in advanced problem solving skills with students. And what our alumni need more than anything, not more than anything, because they need writing skills, but they need advanced problem solving skills. And if I give the students a task, let's say I tell a non-technical student to make a podcast, I'm not telling them how to make the podcast. I'm not even telling them what a podcast is. And it's their job to learn how to solve their problem. I don't care about the end result. I don't care about the problem. I believe that when it comes to technology, and technology specific, wouldn't want to do this in medicine, but when it comes to technology, you want as many failures as possible so that you learn how to do success.
Right. I have my students doing these podcasts for the media class, and I don't really tell them how to do it.
Yeah.
And in fact, I say, well, you could try this program. You can do Audacity. You can use GarageBand. Go to YouTube. It'll show you how to use it. And some of them still need hand holding, and they'll come by, and I have to show them. Many of them, they just go and do it.
See, what I do is I refuse to hold their hand, but I let them do peer collaboration. So if a student is any student that's having problems, I tell them to work with fellow students, because then it gives, it's I think it's a Marine saying, learn, do, teach. First you learn it, then you do it, then you teach it. And I'm a really big fan of that in education. So I would rather any day of the week, and it's not about my time, I would rather a student teach another student technology to complete that cycle than me show somebody something, because I could do it with my eyes closed.
Right. I learned just this semester, previously when we have the WJJCRH, that's our John Jay Community Radio Hour, I would be in the studio with the students. and obviously my presence made a difference. And I learned this year, what I did was I sat them in here. I said, here's the mixer. And I did some real basic, turn it on, turn it off kind of a thing. Listen to it, make it sound good. And then I left.
Yeah.
And I would go to the other room and I'd have my lunch while they broadcast.
Hmm.
And as each time they do it, they get better.
And if you were in here, they'd be asking you a million questions and they wouldn't be problem solving themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so it becomes their program, which is exactly what it needs to be.
Yep.
This is their studio. This is
And
their thing.
when you do it with podcasts, you get the same result, because if I were to teach a student how to do a podcast, they would use the exact technology I showed them in the exact same way. But when you tell a class of 20 students to do a podcast and you don't tell them what you're expecting from them, you get 20 totally different cool things.
Right. And I think if you add one more element to that and you have the podcast broadcast, that then if they know it's going to be broadcast, I think that adds a whole other level of sense of
We force that. What I do with my students is it's not just do a podcast. It's you have to create a podcast that's hosted online. So all of my students are doing work that is published online, most of which with their own name, and it forces them to do good work because they don't want crappy stuff out there with their name on it.
exactly, which is why I love WordPress.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's out there.
Yep.
And anyone could see it. So you better write something that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to move on to something else. There was a couple of things I wanted to say, and I do want to get to your pictures. But you to me are the gadget guy. You seem to always come up with stuff that I didn't know was out there. Is there any gadgets out there that you're looking at now that you want or that you invested in that or you see coming down the line?
I'll tell you what my favorite new technology in the world is.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just getting over having a cold, so I'm coughing a little bit.
Not Ebola or anything.
Not Ebola. No, don't even say that. That's
I know it's not a good joke.
No, people are really overreacting with this whole thing. But so let me tell you about this new technology.
Yes.
And it is something that you may have never heard of. You may have heard of it. You cannot buy it. You won't see it tomorrow. But I look at this new technology and I see the future of humanity.
Whoa.
Solar roadways.
Okay, I think I know about this, but go ahead.
A lot of people know about this because they made a big deal about it online. When I look at where technology is going in the future, in general, the answer is wearable technology.
Okay.
Things like the iWatch and whatever comes after, Apple Watch and whatever comes after it, is the future for all of us, whether or not we like it. But when I look at large-scale, societal changing technology, I like solar roadways. And what solar roadways is, it's a pet project of a couple from, I'm going to say the Midwest, but I might be wrong. I don't think I am.
Okay.
And what they really did was they developed a method to turn our roads and highways into solar powered energy generating venues, where they literally put solar panels in the road, and they developed a special glass that goes over it to keep it secure and safe. And the glass is it's got better traction than pavement, so it exceeds standards, and it heats itself, so during the winter it doesn't need to be plowed, and it generates energy. And the really cool part about it is, and this is the amazing part, to put in solar roadway, you basically have to change the street configuration, and you put in a channel down the side of the road. And the channel that goes down the side of the road is used for things like water runoff, so it's an environmental plus. It's used for connecting the solar panels to the batteries and the grid, but it's also could be used for reinvigorating the internet in this country, because you could run new fiber optics to the entire nation and really push the internet forward in ways that we've never been able to do before. A lot of our internet in this, I mean, I don't have to say it, in Manhattan, people with certain cable companies, I don't want to be sued, but people have real problems with their internet, not only in New York City, but around the country. And if we ever did a project like solar roadways, which I am a giant fan of, we get free energy from the sun. We could cut down on our fossil fuel. The roadways themselves could light up in different patterns if there's a road hazard. So like if a deer comes out in the road automatically analyzes it, recognizes it, and alerts drivers and lights it up. So I mean, and then we get new internet, we get better environmental stuff out of it. So let me tell you something. Solar roadways is a project that everyone should be looking at. We should be taking it seriously, and Congress and the NSF should be funding this research. They already are in some areas, so it's being funded. But we should be putting so much more into it, because with the amount of unemployment we have in this country, with the economic problems we have, what better
infrastructure problems we have?
I was going to say, what better than to redesign our infrastructure today or in the near future? I mean, like a lot of what FDR did, coming out of the Great Depression and Eisenhower did with our roads. A lot of our highways and road systems were built, to get us out of recession problems and to help with those issues and to put people back to work. And, when I look at solar roadways, I see a future that is so beautiful that maybe it's science fiction.
Right. Well, it sounds wonderful. I mean, I could see where I'm riding down the road and I tell the road to show me a movie, and as I'm riding along, I can just see this movie unfold in front of me.
You won't even have to, because and I am famous for making predictions that are correct. I have made not worth getting into on this radio show, but I have predicted so many things. And one of the things I'll predict is that if I have kids, I don't yet, and I'm 36. If I have kids,
Are you with someone?
I'm married. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. More than
All right.
with somebody. But if I'm lucky, she lets me stay around.
Same with mine.
You know how many wires come with me? I mean, most people come with baggage. I come with wires, billions of wires.
Well, you got to wait for this.
Oh no. I mean, there are literally, I don't want to say there are rooms in this college full of my wires, but it's because my wife kicked them out of the apartment. But no, in all seriousness, I predict that if I have kids, they will never learn to drive. They will never need to learn to drive.
Because the car will drive itself.
Absolutely. Google and their driverless projects will succeed. They will succeed slowly but surely. They will replace the driver when it gets to the point where it's undeniable that it is so much safer having driverless vehicles that we won't even need to own our own vehicles anymore, because we will just have a pod scheduled to pick us up and bring us where we need to go. That is a day I'm also really looking forward to. And I was really looking forward to replacing the New York City cab.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in Manhattan right now. I spend thousands of dollars a year on cabs. I get yelled at for that too.
We'll get you on a bike.
I need to be on a bike. But here's the thing. I always wanted the cabs replaced because the cab drivers always upset me. Cabs were horrible. New York City cabs, disgusting. But then Uber came out.
Right.
And let me tell you, another technology worth talking about, Uber. If we have to have somebody drive us around, Uber is a godsend to New York.
Not to the traditional cab driver, because I hear they hate it.
They have to.
But we must love it.
Let me tell you something. I hate saying this, but I understand why the traditional cab driver hates it, but they deserve it.
Yeah.
They have abused New Yorkers for so long, from not turning on the AC in the summer to horrible smells and hunkings of the horn and rudeness. I mean, I was ran over by a cab at one point. I was hit by a cab at one point.
I have had any number of doors open up in front of me as I ride my bike by. From a cab, not from cars, but
Gotcha.
from a cab.
Yeah. No, I think the New York City cab should go extinct. And it's hard saying that, being that people would be out of work, but I think that the New York City cab should go extinct. I think that Uber is the way to go today, and that within 10 years, we will have Google automated vehicles in the city of New York.
All right. I hope I'm around to see it.
I think we all will be.
Yep. We have one more thing we need to do, and that's look at your photography.
My photography.
I'm gonna switch around. We're gonna
Yeah.
switch mics. I'm gonna put you over here by the mixer, and if you can find it, I couldn't find it. I was just kind of looking around, but maybe you can find it.
Just
So
open up Safari.
here. I'm gonna give it to you.
Yeah, sure.
We're gonna switch.
So my photography, it's really easy to find my photography because it's at wandt.us, WANDT.us. And here on the home screen, there are.
We need to broadcast it
Oh, how do we do that?
right here.
Just hit this
Share.
and then this.
Okay, we should be sharing now.
So here on the home screen, this is just want.us. It's kind of like a link to my whole digital life. And we've ignored half of it, which is the best part. We haven't even talked about my
Well, we'll have
information
another
security
show.
work.
Wait a minute, what?
All the work I do with information security and mobile security.
Next show.
However, if you go to Want Photography, and then let me close the slideshow. Here's some of my photographs, and so I'm a master scuba diver. I've been scuba diving since I was about 23. I have hundreds of dives. I think I'm at about 500. I'm a few dives short of 500.
Mm.
I took my genetic love of photography. I mean, I was literally born with a camera in my hands.
Right, grandfather and
I mean,
father.
without a doubt. It's I always had cameras. I always had real cameras. I took my love of photography and my love for exploration and my talent scuba diving, and I am a internationally published, fairly, not all my photography is great, but my underwater photography is good. It's really good. And right now, what we're looking at is an award-winning picture of mine, which is it's called the golden tail moray eel.
Mm-hmm.
This picture was taken, I might get this wrong, but I don't think so, in 2008 on the island of Bonaire at about 1 a.m. This was a night dive that I was doing, and I came across this golden tail moray eel, and it was absolutely beautiful. The eel might be between 4 to 6 feet. I don't really remember.
Is
to
it a
be honest.
dangerous animal?
I am of the opinion that the only thing in the ocean dangerous to humans are humans
Got it.
and jellyfish. And jellyfish. For the most part, we don't have to. Scuba divers don't have to worry about being attacked by animals.
Okay.
I could tell you that I've seen people take those eels and wrap them around their neck like a snake. I would not do that myself. I don't believe in harming or touching or interacting with wildlife. I think it stresses them. So that's the first picture.
So wait a minute. This was at 1 a.m. in the morning, which means it was dark.
Yeah, it's always dark underwater, and we have strobes and equipment so that we could light the area up. Let me see here.
So you're going with other divers, obviously. It's not.
Actually, I prefer to dive alone. I do dive with other divers regularly. My wife is an experienced scuba diver. My friends are usually experienced scuba divers. However, I prefer diving alone, and I prefer my buddy to be my camera. Let me quickly.
Yeah, let's look at some more.
Yeah, let me show you really quick. Let me see if I could do this, just so you can get an idea.
Okay, this is radio568.com. We're broadcasting out of John Jay College with Professor Adam Wandt, learning a little bit about his multifarious life and looking at his pictures on his dives. So here you are suited up, and where are you? Obviously with your strobes
That's
and
in
stuff.
Curacao in 2009.
Wow.
And that's my old camera. That is
Wow.
actually a camera that's about an eighth of the cost of my current system. And if you could see,
So the system we're looking at now would be priced at what if we bought it new? This is not a cheap hobby.
I'm afraid my in-laws are going to listen to this podcast.
Okay, oh, it's a
No,
lot.
I'm joking.
It's
I'm
a lot.
joking. The system that we're looking at, each one of those two strobes is $1,000.
Wow.
The arms and cables that attach the strobes are about 400. The light,
just the thing that holds
Yeah.
it together.
yeah, no, not even the bottom, just the arms,
Just the arms,
and
yeah.
and the cables to
Wow.
attach the strobes. The light on top is a focus light for night photography. That's $1,000.
Wow.
Now the housing and camera is actually a cheaper one. At the time, it would have cost about $3,000 total.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean that was a Canon 20D and a Ike Light housing. And right now, I'm shooting with a really nice Canon 5D Mark II in an aluminum housing made by Aquatica. and I've done some fantastic work with it. And the best part is all my photography is on sale on my website.
You know,
Yeah.
and this website right here, and the website.
It's
It-
on want.us, and if you go to underwater photography, so I mean, I started by showing you the golden tail moray eel, but this is
Oh my God,
another
that's
one of my
beautiful.
favorites. This is a Caribbean reef squid. That this picture was taken at 10:58 at night, in 2008 in Bonaire, and it is about 1.5 inches long.
Wow.
This was taken with a 100 millimeter macro lens underwater with my old camera, the camera that you saw the picture of. And this picture is actually what got me to purchase that focus light that I showed you on top of my camera.
Right, the one
a
that's on
year
the top.
later. Yeah, because it's very difficult to focus underwater at night, and this is a wonderful picture too.
And do you prefer shooting at night because you have that nice black in the background?
No, I could even during the day I can make it black in the background, and just just the right mixture of f-stop and shutter speed, depend aperture and shutter speed depending on where I'm shooting. So I could do macro photography during the day and black it out.
And you're calling it macro.
This is macro. This is an 1.5 inch long. When you're photographing something small like a squid or even something like the eel,
Right.
you're doing what's called macro photography, and you're using special lenses. And I mean, you would never think in a million years this squid was 1.5 inches long.
No. No. And the fact that you got it's so intricately.
Yeah.
And so what are we looking at now?
So this is more of a wide angle shot, and
Right.
this was taken in Curacao in 2009 for sure, because the diver is named Hugo. This was taken. I was in a cave shooting a diver entering the cave.
Wow.
And this was a Venezuelan dive master, who we became very friendly with, named Hugo. And I took this during my honeymoon, and I was in the cave shooting out as he was swimming in.
Now I've heard that cave diving is probably the most dangerous thing you can do besides, I don't know, going into outer space or something.
Confined space diving is so dangerous that the more experience you have, the more likely you are to die.
Because you think you know what you're doing.
And you take more risks.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, I've heard just horror cases where you're down there and the silt gets churned up and you don't know what's up and what's
There could
down.
be cave-ins. You can get lost. I mean, you're using lines so you could find your way. And not only are you using lines, but you're using markers on the line so you know which way to go if you get turned around.
Oh wow.
And you have limited air, so you only have the air you bring in with you. And if it's deep, then you have to worry about decompressing, so you have to have air at the exit and maybe even halfway up. And it might not be air; it might be mixtures of different gases. So I mean, confined space diving is dangerous. I was on a wreck about 2 years ago that somebody died on, right before I was there, in Florida, the USS Spiegel Grove, and they were very experienced divers. And you got to realize, you run out of air, you're underwater, not much left.
Wow. So this one looks not as scary because at least I can see my way out.
This actually was not deep. There's caves and caverns and a difference between them. There in this particular cave I was in, there was nothing I could have done to get lost. It wasn't deep at all.
Right.
I was probably a quarter of the way in, but actually we were even able to surface, and there was an air pocket above.
Oh, inside the cave.
Inside the cave.
That's
Yeah,
pretty
this was a
cool.
pretty cool cave.
Let's see a couple more here. Oh, beautiful.
This is one of my earlier shots. This
Beautiful.
is probably the earliest shot anyone will ever see me take.
Yeah.
It is an angelfish. And I always get the two mixed up. It's either a queen angelfish or an emperor angelfish. I think it's an emperor. And this was taken off of Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Wow. Well, and I'm going to say something that you'll curse me out, but this is not photoshopped.
Okay, so it's not that I need to curse you out. It's that I need to tell you that every single underwater photograph you've ever seen needs
Yes.
to be photoshopped. There's no choice.
Okay.
We're not Photoshop. It's actually not even done in Photoshop. You don't need Photoshop anymore. What you're actually doing is white balance correction.
Mm-hmm.
You on the surface, we do the white balance correction as we take the picture.
Okay.
And most of your automatic cameras do it for you. Professionals do it with white balance cards.
Right.
Underwater, we can't do that as efficiently. So what we would do on all photographs is you take the photograph, you bring it into Lightroom or Aperture, and you set the white balance so that the camera and the photograph knows what white is and what black
Right.
is.
Right.
So every single one of my photographs, I do three things to. I white balance it, I crop it, maybe adjust the rotation,
Mm-hmm.
and underwater there will always be some backscatter. It's almost impossible to take a picture without it. Backscatter is a very small particle in the water that will reflect light.
Got it.
So you'll get a little speck here and there,
Mhm.
and those are removed.
Okay.
But we don't do changing of color or those types of things. This photograph actually is an exception. This is a Caribbean reef shark, and I did play with the filter settings a little bit, and you could see around the top of the shark
Yes.
to make it pop out a little bit more, and I liked it that way.
Right.
This
It looks like it's flying.
it's because
It does. It looks like it's
the water's clear,
yeah.
and when color correction is done correctly, you might not, water is not blue in, this is in NASA, the Bahamas. That is how it looks, and it does look like it's flying when it's in person.
Right.
But this photograph, I know for sure, was one of the photographs I played with a little bit, because it actually, I wasn't happy with it, and I was playing with it, and I was playing with some of the filter settings, and I was able to get it to how I liked it. So this one is a little bit played with,
Right.
but not too much.
Right.
This one's heavily photoshopped because I applied a filter that turned it into more of a painting. And the beautiful part about this, not that this is photoshopped, but I used Photoshop to alter this picture to make it look more like a painting when printed.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that there.
Yep. Sure can. Yeah, it's like emphasis of the shapes.
Yep. This, there would have been no photoshopping other than color correction. Off of the bottom, this is a southern stingray. This is taken in Grand Cayman. This is taken in about 15 feet of water. I am laying on my back, shooting up. Another stingray, southern stingray. This one coming out of Aruba. And again, it's cropped, it's color corrected, and I don't know if I have any backscatter in that picture.
Gorgeous.
This is out of where was this out of? I was alone on this dive, and I think I was in Curacao. This is another Caribbean reef squid, but this wasn't 1.5 inches. This was about 1.5 feet to 2 feet.
Wow.
And I watched it change color while I was looking at it. This was the leader of a group of squid, and it changed colors from that color to pure white to communicate with the other squid it was with. And I watched it happen, and I have pictures of it, and it's pretty cool, but it's not on this site.
Have you ever thought of going and doing film underwater?
I have.
Okay.
I actually did a little bit of a underwater shark diving documentary that I never fully edited, but I filmed down in the Bahamas over 4 trips at a place called Stewart Coves.
You were in the water with sharks. Obviously, well, we saw you.
I've done a lot of shark work. Yeah. I have dove with almost, I don't use cages when I shark dive. I dive with sharks one-on-one. And I've dove with almost every major species of shark other than the great white shark, which I can't find one of without spending a lot of money. And maybe I'll do that in the future. And hammerhead sharks, because hammerhead sharks are so shy that every time I've seen one, they take off. They just jet, they leave. I only see the shadow of the hammerhead, then the shark leaves. But bull sharks, tiger sharks, Caribbean reef sharks, lemon sharks, white tip sharks, black tip sharks, that you can get close to them under certain circumstances, and it's perfectly safe to do so as long as you follow the basic rules.
You're a nut.
Maybe. This is another southern stingray. This one's out of Bonaire. This was pretty big.
How big?
I don't remember. It's bigger than me.
Yeah. Wow. Bigger than you.
Yeah.
All right.
Sunset picture I took in Curacao.
It's beautiful. Did you do anything to that one?
No.
Because sunsets are just so hard to get.
This, I waded in the water.
Yeah.
At waist high for an hour. I went in too early.
Yeah.
And I took about 1,000 pictures that session.
Well, the thing that makes that work is the cloud.
The thing that makes that work is the fact that I blood, sweat, and tears to get it. I mean,
Yeah.
literally, I was in waist-high water without scuba gear for an hour, holding a very heavy camera, trying to get the right picture. And yeah, the cloud makes a difference, and the sun is at the perfect angle.
Yep.
You got to realize I literally took like 1,000 pictures,
Wow.
and that's the best one.
Yeah.
It was at the right particular moment.
There's a balance there between the clouds and the water.
I have been criticized on this picture has how I've cropped it. Most professionals looking at this say that I shouldn't have done a 50-50 crop, 50-50, water, sky, and the
Yeah,
top and
got it,
bottom,
right.
and
With the sun exactly in the
in the
middle.
center. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of criticism on the cropping of this picture,
Right.
and even with all the criticism, so what? I like it. That's all that counts.
The balance of the picture gives it an interest there that it wouldn't have if it were off centered.
I agree.
It almost gives it an abstract quality to it, in which you've got the circle, the line, and then the textures
Yeah.
and comparing to each other. So there is a quality of abstractness to it that I really like.
Another Caribbean reef squid. No, I'm sorry. This was a southern stingray, but really zoomed in. The cool thing about this picture is that you could see how they kind of hide themselves in the sand.
Yeah, the back part of the stingray, and you can see the tail
Yep.
covered up by the sand.
And now we're back to the beginning.
Right.
This website is fairly new. I only have a small fraction of my photographs on it. But one thing that's worth taking a look at is not my YouTube channel. One thing that's worth taking a look at really quick, because it's one of my favorite photographs. I have a Wandt at tumblr.com, and I call it the New York City photography of Adam Scott Wandt. But one of my favorite photographs I've ever taken. Let me scroll down.
There's the Imogine. My wife once called that Imogine. She said, why does it say Imogine there?
This picture right here.
You didn't take that picture.
I did.
Not an underwater shot.
Not an underwater shot. This is a picture of the spaceship Enterprise. And as a Star Trek fan, that means a lot to me. On the NASA Boeing 747.
Me too.
Being flown in front of my apartment along the Hudson River. This is when they showed off the Enterprise to Manhattan. My building is 44 stories tall. I went to the roof of my building with my equipment, my cameras, my tripods. That's the best shot I took. I am so happy with it. However, there's a sad part of the story. I never saw it in person.
Because you were so looking at the camera.
Yeah.
You were so focused on the camera.
It flew so close to me in my building.
Over the river.
Over the river. But we're right on the river.
Yeah, I know.
And it was, I mean, if you think about the eye level that really is at.
Right.
We felt it. But I never actually opened my eyes out of the camera to see it. And I regret it to this day, even though I got what could be a perfect picture of it.
It's, I mean, the story is what makes that picture work.
I love that.
It's the picture, but it's also your story that really, it makes it significant.
And I don't think you could see my other picture. It's not, I don't think I'll have access to it.
Why don't we leave that picture on?
We can leave that picture.
And we'll
because the one other picture I'm really proud of.
Yeah.
Is I have a professional level picture of the Venus transit that I took.
Venus transit. Wait a minute. I don't know what that is.
Never again in our lives will the planet of Venus
come
between us and the sun.
Okay.
And the last time it did, I researched it for months, how to photograph it, and I took an incredible picture of the Venus transit.
Through a telescope?
No, it was through a 100 to 400 lens. So at 400 with a 2-time teleconverter. So at 800, I took a picture of the sun and Venus in front of it. It's just spectacular. And actually I had a NASA scientist with me when I was doing it, who built most of the Mars rovers you know about. And it just happened he was there with me. He even thought the pictures were pretty cool. But I wish I had a way of,
he was there, meaning the best spot in the world to go to make this shot?
No, I actually threw a party. I threw a Venus transit party. I invited all my friends.
Here in the city?
Here on my rooftop while I took the picture.
but it's so light here. There's so much ambient
We had
stuff
special
going on.
glasses we had to wear to look at the sun, and when you're wearing the special glasses,
Oh, that's right. It's during the day. So,
Yeah.
okay.
and when
that's
you're
right, right.
wearing the special glasses, you see nothing but the sun. Solar glasses. To make a long story short, there's a NASA scientist named Ray Arvidsson who works at JPL, and he is the director of the NASA Center at Washington University in St. Louis. And my wife has worked with him. My wife was his student, and we found out he was going to
So
be.
your wife is not just okay. Go on.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
found out he was going to be in New York, and my wife invited him, and he actually came with his wife, and it was wonderful to have a world-renowned scientist at a party that I was throwing to take a picture of an astronomical event.
And you spent the whole time taking this picture. Did you get to talk to the guy?
I did, and he's maybe I shouldn't be telling the story, but there was this one moment where it was a very cloudy day, so we only got a few pictures off. But I'm taking the picture, and everyone's standing behind me, and I was in awe of what I was actually doing. And I said to myself, and I said it out loud, I said, I can't believe I'm sitting here in Manhattan taking a picture of Venus in front of the sun. And Ray leaned over my shoulder and he said something, and I might get the words wrong, but he said something like, I took a picture from Mars of an eclipse of Mars's moon on the sun, or something like that. And it totally killed the moment for me. Totally killed everything.
He just one-upped you,
know?
man.
And
You're
he
like 12
totally
up you.
one-upped me.
Yeah.
He drives the Mars rover.
Yeah,
This
that's
guy
right.
is incredible.
That's right.
And then I actually got to go to a lecture he gave here in New York.
Right.
So
So there was nothing you could have done to
you can't
to
top
impress
that.
this guy.
You can't top the guy who built the camera for the Mars rover and takes pictures with it.
Right. Okay. All right. So you're forgiven.
Yeah, no. But it would be kind of hard to show that picture off really quickly.
Okay.
But it's my office.
Professor Adam Scott Wandt, thank you very much
You're welcome.
for helping us kick off our Play Talk show here at Radio 568. Sorry we had such a bad beginning here. On October 30th, we're going to be talking to Jimmy McDonald, who is a world-class skateboarder. Maybe you'd want to come in and meet the young man. And hopefully we'll get more people here and Play Talk will continue. This will be podcast right afterwards, and you could take a look at this pictures by Adam Scott Wandt again and again and again. Thank you, Adam.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Right up.